Hi everyone, I'm Don Peterson, coming to you from just north of Atlanta. Are you one of those golfers that are working on an impact position where you're trying to control the club head or trying to control your hands or your wrists at impact? Then I've got a concept here I want to go over with you. I've done this for years where I grab 2 fingers and a thumb and I hold the club like this for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to show you a swing I just took with a 3-wood and let you see what happens. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so you might have noticed that the club swung fairly normally, and I had a lot of hinge at the top and I had a lot of release at the bottom. And if we slow that down and look at the club face, you can see the club face is flying through there and squaring to the target almost by itself, because with 2 fingers and a thumb, I obviously couldn't hold the club with very much control, and I'm not manipulating the club very much at the top of the swing. So I have this larger club, and I want to go over a couple of things that might open your eyes and give you a different concept as to what might be able to be possible in your swing. Okay, let's talk about the mass of the club head and where it is on the shaft. So if you look at this swing trainer, you can see the mass of the ball here is directly in alignment with the shaft. So this is not really like a golf club, because the golf club has the mass outside of the shaft. So you can see the shaft comes down here and the mass of the club head is out here. So the weight of that club head, the mass of it, the center of it, is off center with the shaft. So when I hold the club down here at the golf ball, I'm holding it with the mass of the weight above the shaft. We don't hold it down there with the mass of the weight below. We hold it with it above. So when we put the club in motion and we start swinging it, I'm going to show you something that happens for some people at the top of the swing, and it happens differently for other people. So there's a lot of golfers that shut the face, and there's a lot of golf instruction now where they're teaching you to keep the club face kind of shut, or your left wrist flat, or your lead wrist flat or arched. So if I do that and I take that club back to the top of the swing, if you look at this mass of the club, you can see that it's in a different position. It's on top of the shaft still. And if I change directions from here, and I'm going to try to put, because of the levers that we have here, my lead arm and the shaft, those levers are not quite lined up with the mass. So when I change directions, the mass of that club head is now still on top of or outside of the shaft. Now I'm going to do something different. I'm going to hold the fingers and hold the club with 2 fingers and thumb, and you'll see at the top of the swing that weight wants to fall down below the shaft. So let me do that. I'm going to hold it with 2 fingers and a thumb. I'm going to toss the club back to the top of the swing, and you'll see the face wants to fan open and it wants to fall down. So now if you look at the shaft from this angle, again, instead of the mass of the weight being up here like it is when we close the face or we arch our lead wrist, the club, when I swing it with 2 fingers and a thumb and I allow the club head, the weight, to go where it wants to fall down below the shaft, and it wants to fall down on this side. So let's think about all those golfers that try to shallow the club. We see a lot of people going steep and then they're trying to shallow. Well, they're doing that with manipulation with their arms and hands. But if you allow your club and your to swing freely, and that's what I learned, and that's what I think you can learn by holding the club with 2 fingers and a thumb and making some swings. Because what happens is when you hold it with 2 fingers and a thumb, you don't have much control. So you're actually feeling the club as it wants to do what it wants to do. And there's an old book called Swing the Clubhead by Ernest Jones. It's one of the famous books in instruction of all time. But what he was talking about was, feeling that clubhead swing like it's a pocket knife on the end of a handkerchief. And he would take the handkerchief and just kind of swing that pocket knife back and forth and feel the momentum of that, the pocket knife on the outside of the handkerchief. So what we're doing here, holding it with 2 fingers and a thumb, is I'm feeling that weight fall below the shaft. Now, when it falls below the shaft like that and the face is open, what happens is you have a natural shallowing, because when I change directions, that club wants to shallow because the weight is down on the bottom side of the shaft. So you can see that in the swing, and we'll run it back, where I got up to the top with the 2 fingers and thumb. When I changed directions, that club naturally shallowed. So that happens, like I said, it happens naturally if you allow the swinging of the club head. So the other thing that you'll notice is when I went through the golf ball, if I allow the same freedom when I'm going through the golf ball, that club face, because it came from a shallow angle coming down, it has a tendency to flip over real easy and very naturally without any manipulation of the arms and hands. So the whole purpose of this is to get you to feel something that and understand it, maybe a different concept. It'll give you an idea of how to let the club work for you rather than work against you, or instead of you trying to manipulate or hold on, instead of that, you're letting it swing freely. Now, I will tell you that this particular concept and allowing this club to swing open and close like that might not be the best concept for those of you who have short, compact swings, or you're very strong and muscular and you have a hooded wrist at the top. You probably have a hooded wrist at the top because you need to. It's your way of closing the club face and getting it closed for impact. But those of you who are lacking distance and you don't feel a good release at the bottom, it might help you feel like you have more power, because when you hold it with 2 fingers and a thumb, you will feel the club hinge a lot. And that's a different feeling. So then what you do is you go back and you take your normal grip and you try to feel the same thing. You try to feel the weight of that club fall at the top and hinge your wrists fully. And then when you do that, you're relaxed. So your hands are very relaxed at the top of the swing. And when you come out of it, you're still relaxed. And this is where you get nice lag, and you just let that full release happen at impact. And it feels very free, very effortless, and very fast. You get a lot more club head speed when you relax. So let the club hinge and release. Feel it with 2 fingers and a thumb. And one last thing, if you try this, choke down a little bit. The club can be kind of heavy. If you can't do it with 2 fingers and a thumb, try it with 3 fingers and a thumb. And if you can't do it with like that because maybe your hands aren't quite strong enough, then just hold the club as light as you possibly can and just start giving it momentum back and forth like this. And you'll start feeling the club face open more than it normally does and close. And I think everybody can kind of get a feeling. If you're taking the club back and you're hanging on to it and you're actually closing the club face or just holding it in a rigid or stiff position, when you start letting your wrists relax, you're going to feel that club face open. You'll feel the difference in it, the weight staying on top versus the weight falling below the shaft is what I call it at the top of the swing. So anyway, let me know. Like I said, this tip's not for everyone, but it might help a few of you. And that's why we do this, is kind of throw some ideas out there, help some students. So if this tip helped you, I'd love to hear back from you. And as always, like and subscribe. Come back and see us again for tips like this. Take care.